Coming in at number 10, we have Nebula, the adopted daughter of Thanos. While Nebula has always been a complex character with complicated motives no matter what version we're talking about, the Nebula of the comics had a much different role in the Infinity Saga than the one many are familiar with from the movies. In the original Infinity Gauntlet miniseries, Nebula was tortured by Thanos into becoming a half-dead, zombie-like creature, doomed to wander around Thanos' throne as punishment. However, when Thanos ascended to godhood and left his physical body after defeating much of the Marvel Universe's most powerful forces, Nebula found the strength to pull the gauntlet off of Thanos' arm and claim the power for herself. In her fury, she undid all of Thanos' actions, but nearly threatened to destroy the universe herself, before she was eventually defeated and had the gauntlet taken from her by Doctor Strange, Adam Warlock, and the Silver Surfer. Coming in at number 9, we have the Council of Reeds. While not commonly known as outright villains, the Council of Reeds have a complicated history with the Mr. Fantastic most commonly seen in Marvel Comics. A collection of Reed Richards from across the multiverse that have chosen to abandon their families and entire worlds behind in order to combine their intellect into one unified group, the Council of Reeds claim to do everything they do for the better of the multiverse, as their new home is in the expanse in between the different universes. All of this is possible due to the leaders of the Council of Reeds having taken the Infinity Gauntlets from their own realities and used them to create everything needed for their council to function. Incredibly smart but emotionally distant dudes with a trio of Infinity Gauntlets in their possession? What could possibly go wrong? Coming in at number 8, we have Magus, the arch enemy of Adam Warlock. Following the events of the original Infinity Gauntlet storyline, Adam Warlock separated his personality into a good and evil half, and in a twist that nobody could have seen coming, the evil half wound up getting out of control. Named Magus, this twisted version of Warlock used multiple cosmic cubes to launch a war against the Marvel Universe, creating evil doppelgangers to fight every superhero on the planet Earth. Magus eventually got his hands on the Infinity Gauntlet and was only able to be defeated after that point because Thanos had replaced the Soul Gem with a fake. Good job, Thanos. Totally makes up for all the other stuff you've done. Coming in at number 7, we have Norman Osborn, aka the Green Goblin. In the alternate what-if reality of Earth 14154, Norman Osborn discovered the existence of the Infinity Gauntlet while serving as the leader of Hammer. Ordering several other villains to assassinate members of the Illuminati, Norman was able to assemble all of the Infinity Stones and granted himself the name of the Goblin King before attacking Asgard alongside his newly powered-up army of Dark Avengers. Standing victorious, the only thing left for Norman to do was, interestingly enough, try to work out his father issues, bringing his deceased dad forward in time to see all that he had accomplished. But when his father reacted with only horror at what Norman had done, Norman obliterated him from the timeline, unintentionally removing himself as well, because if there's one thing comic books love, it's weird, timey-wimey paradoxes. Coming in at number 6, we have the infamous Dr. Doom. On the alternate world of Earth 90-251, Victor Von Doom was able to hold on to the Beyonder's powers that he had briefly gained in the main Marvel universe during the Secret Wars crossover. With the strength of the Beyonder at his disposal, Doom was able to easily defeat an army of heroes assembled by Sue Storm, and was able to ascend to the level of godhood within this universe. Funnily enough, by the time he collected the Infinity Stones and the Gauntlet, he no longer even needed their strength. He simply wore the gauntlet as a trophy, showing that the former most powerful objects in the universe were now just trinkets to him. Coming in at number 5, we have the Ultimate Hulk. Now, while I personally believe the Hulk deserves to be called a hero more often than not, the version of Bruce Banner from the Ultimate Universe does have a nasty habit of going completely out of control on a more regular basis than the usual Marvel Universe. While imprisoned by S.H.I.E.L.D., the Hulk was visited by the Ultimate version of Kang the Conqueror, who gifted the Hulk 2 different Infinity Gauntlets capable of wielding the 8 stones of the Ultimate Universe, but at the moment only possessing 5 of them. Using the gauntlets, the Hulk was able to break free from his prison and bring the fight to the rest of the Ultimates team, showing that maybe locking up the Hulk isn't the greatest idea in the world. Coming in at number 4, we're hopping over to DC with Darkseid. That's right, the character that's often controversially compared to Thanos has actually wielded the Infinity Gauntlet himself during a particularly notable crossover. In the JLA/Avengers miniseries, important artifacts from both the Marvel and DC universe are spread throughout the multiverse and ordered to be collected by both the Avengers and the Justice League, with one of these artifacts, of course, being the Infinity Gauntlet. Unfortunately, its hiding place is on Darkseid's home of Apocalypse, and the evil ruler is already wearing the gauntlet. Luckily though, the Infinity Stones themselves wind up having no power in the DC universe, allowing the heroes an easier time in recovering the gauntlet, but the thought of Darkseid being allowed to take full control of the Infinity Stones is still an incredibly foreboding thought. Coming in at number 3, we have Ultron. In the Disney Plus series What If, Ultron is the final big bad of the first season, in an alternate universe where he's able to fulfill his plan of taking over Vision's body and uses the power of his single Infinity Stone to destroy this Earth's Avengers and cause a nuclear apocalypse. To make matters even worse, when this reality's Thanos arrives with the Gauntlet and the other 5 Infinity Stones collected, Ultron is able to kill Thanos with ease and take the stones that he oh so kindly collected for him. This version of Ultron becomes so powerful that even the Watcher is forced to break his vow and form the Guardians of the Multiverse to stop him, as Ultron's ambitions have him beginning to conquer entire realities. Coming in at number 2, you know we can't have a list about the Infinity Gauntlet without giving Thanos a slot. And while the comic version of Thanos is obviously iconic and the main inspiration for all the various adaptations that would follow, my personal favorite version has to be the one from the MCU portrayed by Josh Brolin. This version of Thanos isn't lusting after death, but rather has gotten it stuck in his head that the only possible way to save the universe is to wipe out half the life in it. Thanos is obviously one of the more powerful villains in the entire Marvel multiverse, but the most chilling thing about the MCU version is just how calm and resigned to his task he is, especially in Infinity War. This is a guy that just wants to commit his cosmic genocide because he feels he has to, and then go settle down on a farm. And finally, coming in at our top spot, the one character more villainous than Thanos is Santa Claus. No, I'm not being a Scrooge. I love Christmas, but the Marvel Universe has actually had it that Santa Claus was briefly one of the most powerful villains to ever wield the Infinity Gauntlet. Following the disappearance of his reindeer, Santa asks the Avengers if he can borrow the Infinity Gauntlet in order to deliver all of his toys in one night. Unfortunately, this winds up being a bit too much for Santa to handle, and he goes mad with power, only finally being able to be stopped by a well-aimed snowball from Namor. It's debatable on whether this holiday one-off was a canon adventure or not, but at least now we always know that Thanos and Santa Claus have something in common.
Coming in at number 10, Dr. Manhattan. We all remember Dr. Manhattan and his godlike abilities displayed in the DC film The Watchmen. Manhattan naturally as a result of suffering an accident causing his body to explode when hit by an intrinsic field generator, he then possessed the ability to reconstruct his former being, teleport, travel through dimensions, and control the hands of time. All of this without even wearing a glove. You know, with the fancy stones. This means that if the two were to go face to face, Manhattan poses a real threat to Thanos. Number 9, Neo from the Matrix. Famously, once Neo harnessed his abilities, he was able to avoid even bullets, making him a god within his world. Neo possesses the source of the Matrix code. Within that, it kind of makes him part of the Matrix. And even if Thanos tried to utilize the Infinity Gauntlet, he would fall short because 1, Neo is the world he inhabits, and 2, the Infinity Gauntlet would not even be in the universe in which it was created. Number 8, Legion. Legion is the son of Professor X and considered an Omega mutant. He is extremely dangerous not only because he can change the fabric of reality, but he also is a time traveler. The most threatening thing about Legion would be his split personalities, which all contain different powers and at a moment's notice can completely take him over. That being said, he could defeat Thanos and not even be in control of the destruction. He has already displayed his resume for disaster many times in the X-Men cinematic universe when he fought against Division 3 without hesitation, and when he took down an entire army by sinking them into concrete. Nothing like a little concrete quicksand to get the job done, am I right? Number 7, the Hulk. Although the Hulk is a bit of a risk because of his constant changes back and forth from Banner to the Green Machine. Now, if you remember in the Avengers Infinity War movie, the Hulk refused to come out no matter how many times Banner needed his assistance. This left fans believing that maybe the Hulk was scared in some way to face Thanos. However, in the comics, Thanos mentions a bunch of times that he actively tries to avoid fighting the Hulk. Now, I don't know how far the Hulk would get if Thanos still has the Infinity Gauntlet, but this fear of conflict that he has with the Hulk could suggest that he poses a real threat to his power. Plus, he did get some really great shots after a surprise attack in the Avengers Infinity War. Roll the clip. Number 6, Batman. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Batman's human, there's no way he could defeat a god like Thanos, especially with the Infinity Gauntlet. But don't count the Dark Knight out on this one. Batman has one of the highest IQs within the DC universe, and has proven time and time again that he can hold his own. If Batman is allowed some sort of prep time beforehand, he would find a way to trick Thanos and defeat him. I mean, he already has some pretty great wins on his resume, which include defeating Superman, Green Lantern, Darkseid, and even the entire Justice League. Number 5, the Skyfathers. Now, the Skyfathers are a council of godheads that consist of Odin, Zeus, Vishnu, Amun-Ra, Osiris, God, who you may remember from such classics as the Bible, and many more mythological deities. In the comics, they were trapped by Thanos on Asgard, stopping them in their tracks. However, if they appeared in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we could see this ragtag team of gods knock Thanos down a peg. Number 4, Darkseid. Darkseid is essentially the DC Universe equivalent to Marvel's Thanos. With his own Infinity Gauntlet powers derived from the anti-life equation, cool name, and the mother boxes, Darkseid could pose a real threat to Thanos because of his ability to manipulate him just at will. Plus, using the Omega effect, he can shoot freaking laser beams from his eyes that can literally erase any living object from existence. Number 3, Lucifer Morningstar. Lucifer Morningstar is one of the most powerful super beings in the DC universe. If DC and Marvel ever have a crossover at any point, Lucifer could definitely take down Thanos, even with the Infinity Gauntlet at hand. As an immortal angel, he has many abilities, including manipulating dimensions, becoming invisible, super speed, and even invulnerability. Those are just a few that I named, but he possesses so much more that would leave Thanos shaking in his boots. Number 2, the Living Tribunal. The Living Tribunal has always had the power to defeat Thanos, but in the Infinity Gauntlet run, he decided not to act on Thanos' destruction of the universe, mainly because they had the same goals in mind. However, we know that Living Tribunal can sway his opinion after Doctor Strange stopped him from destroying Earth because good still existed on our little blue planet. If he changes his mind about how Thanos is running the universe, the Living Tribunal could easily interfere with his master plan. Number 1, Eru Iluvatar. That's right, Lord of the Rings fans. I hear ya. Eru is our number 1 spot. That's because only a god can defeat another god. While the Infinity Gauntlet gives whoever wears it godlike abilities, Eru is a god all on his own. They created the world, angels, elves, humans, and everything that resides in Middle-earth from J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. This god has incomprehensible power and has intervened many times in the universe of Middle-earth, most notably when Frodo Baggins failed to destroy the ring in The Return of the King. Eru, or the One, intervened in the world through Gandalf when he made a remark to Frodo that Bilbo was meant to find the ring and not by its maker, which led to the inevitable destruction of the ring despite Frodo, well, not being able to get the job done. Now when it comes to Thanos, who operates in a physical form, he will be absolutely no match for this Lord of the Rings god.
And at number 10, Tony Stark. The Volume 4 Avengers was post-Dark Reign. It was the heroic age, meant to return to form with classic superhero stories featuring the likes of familiar narratives, including the return of the Infinity Infinity Gauntlet and the gems. The villain Parker Robbins, aka the Hood, sought out the Infinity Gems, and of course the Avengers rallied together to stop him. When the Gauntlet was taken away from him, it was by Tony Stark, who in turn completed the Gauntlet and became the first human to ever wield it. Tony then pretended to will it out of existence, but instead gave each member of the Illuminati one of the gems in order to protect them and keep them safe. Up next, number 9, Spider-Man. In the Avengers and the Infinity Gauntlet Volume 1 Issue 1 back in 2010, Thanos returns and has acquired all of the Infinity Gems. Alongside the Avengers, Spider-Man confronts him, but in contrast to all of the previous times when the Mad Titan had the upper hand on Parker and typically beat the character to a pulp, this time Peter steals the Gauntlet from him after it slides off of Thanos' hand while he fights a Doombot. Peter then uses it to rewrite the timeline, so that Thanos never got his hands on the Infinity Gems to begin with only Spider-Man retaining the memory of what happened. Up next at 8, Lockjaw. A different form of the Gauntlet in at this number. Lockjaw is a pretty underrated superhero, probably because he's a dog. Lockjaw, who initially served as the Inhumans' teleporter and escort to the royal family, eventually led the Pet Avengers. It was in that series that the character decides to pursue the Infinity Gems after Mr. Fantastic pays the Inhumans a visit, searching for the same thing. Lockjaw finds the Mind Gem, it boosts his intelligence, and he begins his quest, recruiting a few other furry friends, and reptile ones. They're successful too, until Thanos appears and kills one of their team, causing them to banish Thanos to an alternate dimension and revive their pal. Once all gems are assembled, Lockjaw wears them all in a collar rather than a gauntlet, and then presents them to Mr. Fantastic, who is pretty surprised that he did all of this. It's because Lockjaw is such a good boy. Up next at 7, Black Panther. Black Panther's stint with the Gauntlet took place in the 2015 Secret Wars. At the time, Dr. Doom had the Beyonder's powers and was practically a god, ruling over Battleworld. Black Panther is given the Gauntlet to battle the now practically omnipotent Doom. T'Challa loses though, but he served his purpose. He and the Gauntlet were essentially a distraction, and Doom went on to fight Reed Richards next. Up next, number 6, Ultimate Hulk. Swinging on over to the Marvel Ultimate Universe for this number. So in that universe, the Infinity Gauntlet is a bit different. Instead of being one gauntlet, there's actually 2, and there's 8 gems, not 6. The 8 are spread across the 2 gauntlets, and the Hulk got his grabbers on both of them in the Ultimates issue 25 back in 2011. During an ambush of S.H.I.E.L.D. by Kang the Conqueror, Hulk, who was imprisoned there, was let loose, and Bruce Banner's angrier half slipped on the gauntlets to take revenge for being locked up, which, if you think about it, could have been catastrophic, except that not all the gems were in the gauntlet, and the Ultimates managed to subdue him, thankfully. Up next at 5, Santa Claus. Yep, that's right, good old Saint Nick wore the Infinity Gauntlet once upon a time. This occurred in the Marvel Holiday Spectacular 2009, when the Illuminati let him borrow it in order to complete his Christmas Eve deliveries when his reindeer turned out to be Skrull imposters. The power gets to his head a little, leaving Doctor Strange exclaiming this wonderful line: "I told you letting Santa Claus use the Infinity Gauntlet was a bad idea." Oh, the hilarity. Namor then whips a snowball at the Christmas icon, knocking the gauntlet off of Santa's hand and into a snowbank. And then instead Iron Man sets him up with some robotic reindeer. Up next, number 4, Captain America. Prior to the 2015 Secret Wars story arc, under the Marvel Now label in the New Avengers, the Avengers had another crisis on their hands. An alternate Earth was colliding with Earth 616. The volume, written by Jonathan Hickman, more so focused on the Illuminati rather than the Avengers, but still contained a familiar cast of characters. After Black Panther discovers another Earth hanging over Wakanda, that is destroyed by Black Swan, Reed Richards looks into it and discovers that it's a multiversal chain reaction that is causing universes to collide with one another. Captain America donned the gauntlet to try to prevent it, but that didn't work. The power was so immense that it destroyed the gauntlet and the gems, minus the time gem, and left the Illuminati with no other choice but having to destroy the alternate Earth that was colliding into them. Cap was opposed, of course, so Doctor Strange casted a spell to erase his memory of the event. Up next, number 3, Reed Richards. In New Avengers Illuminati issue 2, it's revealed that Reed Richards has attempted to rebuild the gauntlet in order to use its power to then destroy it once and for all, but he was prevented by doing so due to the great temptation of its power. So he decided that it would be best to give each member of the Illuminati one of the gems in order to prevent the same thing from happening again. Later on, in Jonathan Hickman's run on Fantastic Four, Reed would discover that there was a multiversal council of Reeds, and that he was the only one who didn't possess the Infinity Gauntlet, which is pretty damn hilarious. In our number 2 spot, Deadpool. Perhaps the most surprising character on this list to get his wrist inside that gauntlet is Deadpool. This happens in Deadpool 45. At the time, in his solo series, there was a recurring gag where the character would be placed in various past eras of Marvel Comics, since the character in his stories can often be super meta. And at one point, one of the eras that he was popped into was during the initial 1992 Infinity Gauntlet miniseries. In the story, Thanos had hired Deadpool to steal the gauntlet, but instead Deadpool makes a fake one and gives it to Thanos, and uses the real one for his own comedic purposes. He gets all the heroes of the universe together to give him a roast. The story also features the Thanos copter, and Deadpool gets knocked out of it, so brownie points for bringing that one back. And last but not least, in at number 1, Adam Warlock. Out of all the heroes in the Marvel Universe, Adam Warlock is the one with the most experience when it comes to the Infinity Gauntlet. He initially obtained it in the miniseries of the same title, after Thanos' first attempt at taking over the entire universe was thwarted by him and pretty much all of the Marvel heroes and celestial entities. Warlock is the one who brings everybody together after the Silver Surfer warns him of Thanos' plans. He also manages to get it away from Nebula when she steals it from Thanos after after he believes he's won the war. Eventually, Warlock, rather than maintain the gauntlet with all of its gems, decides alongside a tribunal of celestials that the gems should be dispersed. Warlock had a massive weight on his shoulders if he had chosen to keep it, and the living tribunal agrees, even though Eternity believes the power should belong to him.
Number 10. Nebula. If you're on top of the comic version of the Infinity stories, you'll know that Nebula was the one to get the gauntlet off of Thanos. After using the gauntlet to leave his body and become one with the universe, a near-death Nebula grabbed the gauntlet from his arm, taking away his power, and then tried to use it to take over the universe herself. Classy. Luckily, Adam Warlock wrecked her and locked her up. Good job, bud. Number 9. Norman Osborn. Yeah, this one's kind of a cheat because it's from a What If comic, but what the hell, canon or not, he wielded the gauntlet. In the one-off What If Infinity Dark Reign, we saw a version of events where Norman Osborn got his hands on the complete Infinity Gauntlet during Dark Reign, and he killed a bunch of dudes, and turned himself into the Goblin King, and forced Peter Parker to relive Gwen Stacy's death over and over again. Yeah. It was rough. But then he erased his dad from existence, which then erased him from existence, Back to the Future style, so that's good at least. Number 8. Thanos. That's right, Thanos. Did you just double check that this doesn't contradict the title? Me too, but this list is talking about all the supervillains who have wielded the Infinity Gauntlet, and Thanos certainly fits that criteria. Is this mainly because it was hard to fill a list? Yes it is, but it still counts, because he's used it a bunch in comics, shows, and yes, the Infinity War movie. And if we're talking Thanos, we must talk about the totally famous, not at all tacked on, number 7, Thermos. Yeah, it's time for the joke entry. The Thanos of the Humorverse is named Thermos, and he looks ridiculous. But what's even more ridiculous is his version of the Infinity Gauntlet, which is called the Infinity Mitten. And it's really dumb, not just because the name sounds ridiculous, but also, who the hell calls a baseball mitt a mitten? Nobody, that's who. I don't even call it a mitt, I call it a glove, but whatever. And yes, I know that some people might get all technical and go, oh, but that's not the gauntlet, it's the mitten, yeah. But like, it's close enough, shush. Number 6, Dark Surfer. While the Surfer was a good guy through season 1 of the Superhero Squad, he eventually became corrupted by the Infinity Sword. He steals the Infinity Gauntlet from Thanos and goes off becoming Dark Surfer. He then uses the gauntlet to split up into 6 different colored versions of himself to fight his 6 previous teammates, and he's eventually defeated, which, while cool, was a pretty silly strategy considering how damn powerful the gauntlet could be. Number 5. Darkseid. This is a great story. JLA Avengers was a crossover event that saw the Marvel and DC universes dueling against each other. This involved powerful items from each universe being hidden from the members of the other universe, and Darkseid, who actually inspired the idea for Thanos, managed to get his hands on the Infinity Gauntlet. The only problem? The gems didn't work in the DC universe. Nerd. Number 4. Ultron. This one's definitely a stretch, but I think it kinda counts. In Avengers Assemble, the cartoon show, Thanos managed to get the gauntlet together, but was defeated. However, Ultron managed to take over the robot Arsenal's body, which had just absorbed the power of the stones and gauntlet. So here, Ultron wasn't necessarily wielding the gauntlet, he kinda became it. Which is pretty neat, but now I'm picturing Thanos shoving his hand up Ultron, and it's not a pretty picture. Number 3. Ultimate Hulk. We all know that Hulk can be a bit unpredictable and violent at times, but the Hulk of the Ultimate Universe, Earth 1610, was way worse, and stronger, and great. Anyway, the Ultimate Universe actually had 8 Infinity Gems with 2 Infinity Gauntlets, and when Kang released Bruce Banner from his cell at S.H.I.E.L.D., Hulk ended up fighting against the Ultimates with the help of 2 freaking Infinity Gauntlets. Now, thankfully, they were missing some stones or else it would have been really bad, but he was still scary as hell. Number 2. The Magus. As you may know if you've been watching our stuff for a while, the Magus is the evil version of Adam Warlock, the powerful artificially created hero. Through a combination of powerful items like cosmic containment units, as well as brilliantly executed lies and deceits, he managed to get his hands on, or rather hand in, the gauntlet, which he managed to make functional again. He was defeated in the end by the surprisingly cohesive team of Adam Warlock and Thanos, who managed to summon a combination of Eternity and Infinity and took the Magus into the Soul Gem. Number 1. Dr. Doom. After Doom decided to help the Fantastic Four for the good of the universe and sacrificed himself to save the day, he woke up and found 2 Infinity Gauntlets from other universes. Just begging to be taken, along with a bunch of Dooms who had been lobotomized. So he decided to make lemonade and create a Parliament of Doom, and later used one of the gauntlets to revitalize its home universe, and Doom became the god of it. Gnarly.